Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. Start our first lecture.
Uenda kuti apa situenda embekeza hapo kusepe one lecture hiyo Michael okay ni problem futhi.
We're saying we'll look at 3 lectures this morning. All the 3 very, very important, and I expect after today's lectures, go home and go through. I want all of you to understand the 3 components of today's session. The first component is the sensory visual system. How do you perceive what you are seeing? That's the sensory. For you to interpret what you are seeing, how does it get to you? Where you reach a stage where you have to say, I have seen this person, I have not seen that person. So the way the visual pathways pass from the eye up to the brain, that's what we will look at here. The anatomy of the visual system. The first one is the retina, obviously, where light first has to get to the retina. From outside, the light passes through the clear cornea, the anterior chamber of the eye, through the lens, through the vitreous to hit the retina. You can see all that pathway before the retina can appreciate that there is something coming in. At the retina, there is what is called transduction of light to a neuroelectrical signal. In other words, that light which gets there is changed into a neuroelectrical system, which begins with the photoreceptors in the retina. And the cells of the retina, the rods and cones, play an important role. Ganglion cells are the beginning of the visual sensory system. Each ganglion cell sends a single nerve fiber or axon with myelin sheath through the retina nerve fibers layer to converge at the optic disc. Oh, they're waiting. Okay. They're okay now? Okay. Ganglion cells, which serve the central vision, send their axons directly from the foveal area to the temporal aspect of the optic disc, thus forming the papillomacular bundle. What is the papillomacular bundle? It's these central vision, these are ganglion cells which serve the central vision. From there, the fibers go straight, to the temporal aspect and the macular temporal papillomacular bundle. Fibers from the peripheral nasal ganglion cells enter the nasal portion of the optic disc directly. You'll see what I'm talking about very soon. This is a diagram of the retina cells. From here, you've got the rods, the cones, and they are the top part here of this diagram is the vitreous part. So light has to pass through the whole thickness of the retina cells to activate the rods and cones. Then the impulse now starts coming upward again to come out of the eye. So light is coming in through the whole tissue to go and activate these cells which are at the back of the, on the outer side of the eyeball. Please, if you are not clear, don't hesitate. to find out. So fibers from the peripheral temporal retina, they enter the superior and inferior pores of the optic disc. Temporal retinal nerve fibers arising near the horizontal meridian run directly towards the disc until approximately 4 millimeters temporal to the fovea. Then they diverge around the papillomacular bundle to become part of the superior or inferior arcuate nerve fibers. There are diagrams here, you appreciate what I'm talking about. It's this. The macula is here in the center. Hope you can see this. Can you? This is the macular area here. So fibers temporal to the macula have to travel out like that to enter here. These ones, they come like that. But the ones from the macula go directly to enter the disc. All these fibers have to enter the disc and come out as the optic nerve. So this is central vision. From here, fibers on the nasal side of the disc of the fovea, they go directly and enter the nasal, the disc. The ones which are temporal to this macula have to go above and below, avoiding directly going through the macula. Fibers from the nasal side of the disc, they also enter directly in that manner. It's important to appreciate this geography, how these fibers are moving, because when we come to talk about the visual fields, this will be an important aspect to look at. The optic disc is the site of exit from the eye or the eyeball of the retinal ganglion cells. You can see all these fibers, they are first coming from the retinal cells, they come out, and they are all exiting from the whole eyeball through the optic disc. So when they say the optic disc is the site of exit from the eyeball of the retinal ganglion cells, I think it's correct. It's located 3 to 4 millimeters nasal to the fovea. Size is about 1.7 millimeters vertically and 1.5 horizontally. There are no photoreceptors on the optic disc, and hence it's called a blind spot. If light is just directed at the disc, there are no photoreceptors to appreciate that there is light. Light must hit here, out away from the disc. This is the most sensitive part. Light will be appreciated, all this, because there are ganglion cells, there are retinal fiber, there are cells out there which are coming out to produce the fibers. So any light falling there, it can be appreciated. Light falling any part from there, it will be appreciated. The light falling on the macula, on the fovea here, will be highly appreciated. But light coming on the disc, you see, not appreciated. You can't see that light. The optic disc, as I say, is the site of exit from the eyeball of the retinal ganglion cell fibers. Located 3 to 4 millimeters nasal to the fovea. It's about 1.7 vertically and 1.5 horizontal diameter. There are no photoreceptors on the optic disc, hence that part being called a blind spot. This is a cross section of the disc with the optic nerve coming out from there. Blood supply anterior optic nerve. The fibers, when they come out, they form a bundle. This bundle here coming out of the eyeball there. This is what you call the optic nerve. All the fibers of the ganglion cells, once they come out into a single bundle, you refer to that as the optic nerve. And this is the optic nerve. Okay. Blood supply and the anterior optic nerve. Optic nerve contains approximately 1.4 million nerve fibers. And the parts of the optic nerve, you've got the intraocular, 1 millimeter. This is the intraocular, this part. As the fibers are starting to come out, that's the intraocular optic nerve. Intraocular, then intraorbital. After the fibers have come out, they formed the optic nerve within the orbit. You call that part as the intraorbital. From the orbit, the nerves now go through the bone canaliculi and to go and enter the brain, the cranium, or the inside of the brain. So you've got intraocular, intraorbital, intracanalicular, and the intracranial. All these, what it is it's just a section of the parts the optic nerve is to pass through as it goes to the end, to the optic occipital lobes, the medial part of the occipital lobes. The orbital portion of the optic nerve extends from the globe as it has come out to the canal and measures 20 to 30 millimeters long, 3 to 4 millimeters thick. The nerve follows a sinusoidal course. A sinusoidal course simply means a zigzag, instead of a straight route, it bends up on that. In other words, in terms of length, it's more, it allows for stretching because there is a sinusoidal, curves, so many curves, than if it went straight in. Nerve fiber is surrounded by 3 layers of the meninges. These are the standard the layers of the meninges, the dura mater, arachnoid, and the pia mater. Dura mater is the outer one. Arachnoid is the central one. The pia mater is the one next to the brain. The same coverings of the brain. These continue covering the optic nerve as it comes out, Pia mater is fused to the outer surface of the nerve. Subarachnoid space contains cerebral fluid. And near optic apex, near the orbital apex, the optic nerve runs through a ring of connective tissue, what is called the annulus of Zinn. From the orbital part, it's going through a ring to go into the intracranial part. So that connective tissue is called the annulus of Zinn. It's a tendinous ring. And the tendinous ring is the origin of the superior, the medial, and inferior rectus muscles. Movement of the rectus muscles, you've got the superior, inferior, and the medial rectus muscles. They originate from this cartilaginous ring, the annulus of Zinn. Originate from there to come to insert into the eyeball. They play an important role in the movement of the eyeball. The optic nerve enters the canal at the apex of the orbit. Optic canal part, the optic canal measures 5 to 10 millimeters long and 5 to 7 millimeters wide. There's no specific, it's all 5 for everyone. You can see 5 to 10, 5 to 7. There are people with small heads, there are people with big heads. So these measurements do vary. This is within the normal. The bone in the canal is thinnest medially, where it separates the nerve from the ethmoid and the sphenoid sinuses. So you've got two optic nerves, one this side, one this side. The medial part is the thinner part. Then you've got the ethmoid sinuses here and the sphenoid sinuses. Bone canal contains optic nerve, ophthalmic artery, and fibers of the sympathetic carotid plexus. The intracranial part now, from the eyeball, intraorbital part, intracanalicular part through the canal, bony canal, thinnest on the medial side of these bony canals. Then you go into the intracranial. This is the intracranial part. On entering the intracranial space, the optic nerve runs posteriorly to converge at the chiasma. The two optic nerves join at the chiasma. Intracranial portion of the optic nerve is about 12 to 18 millimeters long and related to superiorly to the olfactory tracts, anterior cerebral artery, anterior communicating artery, and the inferior surface of the frontal lobes. In other words, the optic runs below the whole cranial brain. It runs below that. You've got the frontal there, occipital at the back. The lateral aspect of the optic nerve intracranially is the internal carotid artery. Inferiorly, you've got the posterior ethmoid sinus and the sphenoid sinuses. In other words, it's sphenoid and ethmoid sinuses down there, enters the cranium. On the lateral aspect are the internal carotids, this side and the other side of the artery. This is a very, very important lecture. You have to appreciate, you have to, to understand the relationship here. From the eyeball, intraorbital, intracanalicular, then you are inside, intracranial. Until it goes from the intracranial, as it goes backward, the two optic nerves join together into a chiasma. This is what we mean by chiasma. No, on this. These are the eyes here. This is the optic nerve. This is the chiasma. I think what is important in the chiasma is to understand how the fibers pass through here. Fibers from the medial retina, medial side of the globe, what do? They cross and enter into the opposite, because this is the optic nerve, this is the optic tract. After the chiasma is the optic tract. So fibers arising from the medial retina, when they reach the chiasma, they cross over to join with temporal fibers from the opposite side. So in the chiasma, there is crossing. In the optic tracts, you have mixed fibers from the same side, temporary, and fibers from the opposite eye which were medially. Is that clear? So you have this crossing over. This is important to appreciate when we come to look at the visual fields. If you have a visual field here, it's straightforward. Any lesion here, you're going to have a visual field here. The patient won't be able to see. If it's here, it will be in the medial side of the eye. But if the lesion is here, for example, these are fibers from the opposite eye, which have joined the fibers from the ipsilateral side, contralateral or ipsilateral. There is the temporal ipsilateral joined together with the nasal contralateral to make the optic tract. So if there is a lesion here, it means this part of there will be no vision here in that locality. This is there. This is there. That's how it works out. Where the pathology is, opposite that is where the lesion will be. Person can't see in that direction. So if this is affected, your vision will be affected opposite here. If this is the fibers in the eyeball affected, your vision will be affected in this area. Then you say, okay, the lesion is within the eyeball. But you can have here a lesion here affecting here. What is happening here? It means you are going to have this defective vision there, opposite in this left eye. And since this is now paired with this, the vision will also be defective in this eye. If there is a lesion here, this is the optic tract because it contains the ipsilateral, temporal, and the contralateral medial. So the visual field will be in this locality. Then where you have both eyes, visual field is in the same locality, you know this cannot be optic nerve lesion. The site of the lesion is optic tract. Because at that level, there is crossing over of the ipsilateral, these medial fibers to join the contralateral to join the ipsilateral to form the optic tract. Is that making sense?
That's very clear.
Yeah, it's very clear, isn't it? Okay. Equally here, any lesion here, we are going to have both visual fields there. If a lesion is only here affecting this temporal fiber, the field defect will be there. This side, it will be intact because the fibers are not affected. Equally, if the nasal fibers here are affected, the visual field will be in that direction. But this side, it will be intact. That's how we come to locate the site of the lesion. From the visual field the patient has got, you can actually postulate and say, no, these visual fields, they match up with a lesion at this level. If the optic nerve is completely cut off here, there will be total blindness here, and there will be vision here. So total blindness in one eye and vision here, it means either the whole retina is completely damaged or the whole optic nerve is completely damaged, while the other side is all intact. Here it's not only the retina or the optic nerve, we should also consider things like the cornea completely gone, because it's unilateral here. This will have total good vision, this will have no vision. If it's the cornea or it's the lens that is the cause of the defect, what you see is that the retina is intact behind there. They will appreciate a bit of light. but they can't see things clearly because the light is not getting through. Either there is a cataract there, or which is an opacity of the lens, or there is the opacities of the cornea. But with the opacities of the cornea, with the opacities of the lens, the patient will still tell you there is light. They may not see the object, but when you shine the light in that eye, they will tell there is light, because light can pass through up to the retina. That appreciation of light will be there. They may not see the object. Only in conditions where the anterior part of the eye is affected, the posterior part, the retina and everything is intact. If the retina is completely affected here, even if you shine a torch there, they will not see the light. They won't see because there is no nerve fibers transmitting that. The nerve fibers which are there are all damaged. So this anatomy is very, very important. Ultimately, it helps us to diagnose the site of the lesion on the visual system. When you take the history, you examine, you do the visual fields, you can tell, if you understand this aspect, that the lesion here is at this point. Okay? This is just a cross-section, a lateral view from the one we were seeing of the optic chiasma. This is the optic chiasma there. After the optic chiasma, you've got the optic tract there. But below the optic chiasma, you've got this, what is this? Pituitary gland. Okay. That's the pituitary fossa with a pituitary gland in there. So, a tumor of the pituitary gland will affect the optic tract, not the optic nerves. Okay. Chiasma. Okay, this is the same thing. Macular fibers make up a large portion of the entire chiasma, but are mainly located inferiorly. If they are mainly located inferiorly, I want to, you see, if macular fibers are located inferiorly, it means in the optic chiasma, this is the optic chiasma here, this is the optic tract. If the macular fibers are mainly located inferiorly, it means a tumor of the pituitary here is likely to impinge on that. Okay? It is likely to hit there and the macula will be affected. Nasal crossed macular fibers decussate in the posterior portion of the chiasma. Fibers from the nasal retina cross anteriorly within the chiasma and loop into the terminal portion of the opposite optic nerve. Optic chiasma is 8 millimeters anterior posterior length. I'm sure they put the diagram here. 8 millimeters. You've seen? Anterior posterior. This is the chiasma, this is the optic tract. So anterior posterior is 8 millimeters. That's what sit down. Huh? Okay, thank you. So fibers from the nasal retina, okay, optic chiasma 8 millimeters anterior posterior length, 4 millimeters thickness. Chiasma lies about 10 millimeters above the pituitary gland. Between the chiasma and pituitary gland is the inferior chiasmatic system or space. It's space. Okay, there we are. Optic tracts begin at the posterior aspect Someone coming?
Mhm.
Okay. Isn't it right?
Feeling the joy.
Because this is 11:30. Okay. Okay, we'll continue. People, optic tracts begin at the posterior aspect of the optic chiasm. After crossing, that crossing bit where they cross is the optic chiasm. Now, after crossing, from there you talk of optic tracts. Before crossing, you are talking of optic nerves. The crossing itself, optic chiasm. So optic tracts begin at the posterior aspect of the optic chiasm. They diverge laterally and continue posteriorly around the cerebral peduncles to terminate in the lateral geniculate bodies, left and right, like that. Each tract contains visual and pupillomotor fibers, crossed and uncrossed. Some fibers terminate in one of the 6 layers of the lateral geniculate nucleus, and some fibers bypass the geniculate nucleus and proceed ventrally to form the brachium of the superior colliculus. This group of fibers terminate in layers of the superior colliculus and in the pretectum of the mesencephalon of the brain, mesencephalon. The one we are on. Lateral geniculate body, the largest neurons, magnocellular, are found in layers 1 and 2. The smallest neurons, parvocellular, layers 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this lateral geniculate body has got layers, 1 up to 6. In layers 1 and 2, large neurons, what they call magnocellular. The smaller neurons, if the 1 and 2 are there, it means the 3, 4, 5, and 6 is in the other one, the parvocellular. Magnocellular neurons, M cells, subserve motion detection, stereopsis, and the low spatial frequency contrast sensitivity. These project the axons to layers 4C alpha of the cortical area of 17. Parvocellular neurons, P cells, subserve fine spatial resolution and color vision. They project to layers 4C beta of the visual cortex. This is complicated a bit, but it's to appreciate where each sensation comes from. Okay? These are the layers we're talking about, or the lateral geniculate. It's like this. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like a mound like that. Okay? Lateral geniculate body continues ipsilateral retinal ganglion cells synapse in 2, 3, and 5. Contralateral 1, 4, and 6. Really, of the two, you see, look, the best way to look at this thing. If we're talking of retinal ganglion cells, the question is it ipsilateral? And the other one is contralateral, isn't it?
Mhm.
All you need to know is one side. If ipsilateral goes in 2, 3, 5, the others, well, they are supposed to be 6. The others will be 1, 4, and 6. The layers. You can ipsilateral or contralateral goes in 1, 5, and 6. No, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. 1 is not there. 2, 3, 5, and 6. 2, 3, 5 there. That's for ipsilateral. Contralateral is 1, 4, 6, you fill up. Okay?
Mm.
So if you know one, might be easier to remember the other one as well. If you know the ipsilateral one, then the contralateral one is easier to fill in. In the lateral geniculate body, there is 90 degrees rotation of the fibers. Nerve fibers from superior retina lie medially in the lateral geniculate body. The nerve fibers from the inferior retina lie laterally in the lateral geniculate. After leaving the lateral geniculate nucleus, rotation of fibers occurs again. Superior and inferior retinal fibers lie in the superior and inferior positions in the optic radiations. Back to the original now. We went up to what? 28?
Mhm.
Optic radiations, superior fibers that leave the lateral geniculate nucleus proceed directly posteriorly to the occipital cortex. So from the LOGN, fibers now proceed to the occipital cortex. The occipit is, okay, that's the occipital cortex. Inferior fibers first loop around the ventricular system or into the temporal lobe. In other words, they go first into the temporal lobe, then go back like that. Inferior fibers are also extremely close to the sensory and motor fibers of the internal capsule. The inferior fibers that loop around the temporal horn are known as Meyer's loop. The most anterior of these fibers are about 5 centimeters back from the tip of the temporal lobe, which is the temporal lobe. This is frontal,
Mhm.
temporal, occipit.
Mhm.
You have to have an idea, yes.
Mhm.
These are the various parts of the brain. They are in these lobes: frontal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. Optic radiations. The optic radiations contain 3 main groups of fibers. Superior portion contain fibers serving the inferior visual fields. Let's note clearly here. The superior portion contains inferior fibers which serve. You see the way the fibers are in the eyeball. Those fibers which are superior, they serve inferior vision. Fibers which are inferior serve superior vision, because when the light comes in, it goes directly into to hit the fibers. From there, like that. There's nothing like the light from there, then it turns to hit up. No, it's the fibers directly there. So inferior fibers serve the superior area. Superior fibers serve the inferior part. Lateral fibers serve the nasal part. Nasal fibers serve the temporal side. This is what is here. Inferior portion contains fibers serving the superior visual fields. Central portion contains the macular fibers. It's central. Okay. Superior portion contains fibers serving the inferior visual fields. In other words, the same fibers, if they are damaged, in terms of visual fields, it will be this you have to take into consideration. If it's a superior fibers damaged by some lesion, the visual field must be inferior. Superior fibers damaged, visual field must be inferior. Temporal fibers damaged, the inferior visual field must be nasal in that eye. When you check the eyes, when you check the eye, the two eyes, you check one eye separate with the other. Where there is a vision, that's where the lesion is. Because when you say left vision is coming from where? The nasal of this and the temporal of this. They give you that. Inferior comes from both down. This field is the temporal side of this retina and the nasal side of this retina or this eye. Okay? Superior is the inferior part, which gives you the superior vision. That you have to appreciate before you say no, the lesion is here. Superior portion contains fibers serving the inferior visual fields. Inferior portion contains fibers serving the superior visual fields. Central portion contains the macula, which is central vision, right ahead, straight on. Occipital cortex, primary visual cortex is also called striate cortex or Brodmann's area 17, the occipital cortex, situated along the superior and inferior lip of the cacrine fissure. Most of the visual cortex is concerned with the macular vision. This. Most of that. Occipital cortex that serves the macula lies posteriorly at the occipital tip, extending slightly on the lateral aspect of the cerebral hemisphere, right at the back. In other words, what do you call this place? In Ibemba, what do you call it? Urukobo. In other words, if you have severe injury here, you're likely to have the macula being affected. You know? Peripheral visual field is served by visual cortex that lies more anterior. I mean, these are the books you have to read through. Kansky, you have Kansky? You have, isn't it? Yes. Neuro-ophthalmology review manual, basic and clinical science course, American Academy, section 5. These are comprehensive for the purposes of understanding this topic. Do we have any questions from the class? Let's see it. Oh, they are all sleeping. Eh?
They're listening.
Eh? They're listening. Okay, very good. And this lecture, they'll get it. Okay. I have attended this lecture today. 17? 12. At home. Yeah, I would make, if I were a child, I would also make the noise, all this quietness. You don't know why people are even quiet. You start making noise.
Since there are no questions.
There are no questions. Okay, thank you very much. If there are no questions, you can send them the you say the sensory visual system.